The death of 6-year-old beauty queen JonBenét Ramsey made national headlines. The crime became a media phenomenon, much like the O.J. Simpson trial. And if losing their daughter wasn't hard enough, John and Patsy Ramsey also had to fight claims that they had a hand in her murder. It was the day after Christmas of 1996. The body of little JonBenét Ramsey was found in the basement of her family's upscale home in Boulder, Colorado. At 6 years old, she was a child beauty queen, competing in pageants much like her mother, a former Miss West Virginia. Early that morning, Patsy Ramsey called police to report that JonBenét was missing. When they arrive, Patsy shows them a ransom note found at the house. Police conduct a search but find no sign of JonBenét. 7 hours later, John Ramsey finds his daughter's body in a little-used room in the basement. An autopsy showed that she'd been beaten, strangled, and possibly sexually assaulted. It wasn't long before police shifted their search from a possible intruder to the Ramsey family itself. The Boulder DA said John and Patsy were under an umbrella of suspicion. The case became a media circus, and the family was being tried in the court of public opinion.
I did not kill JonBenét. I did not have anything to do with it. I love that child with my whole of my heart and soul.
The investigation dragged on for months with little progress and no arrest made. John and Patsy put their house on the market and moved to Atlanta, not far from where their daughter was buried. In 1998, a grand jury decided there was not enough evidence to charge anyone with JonBenét's murder. Tragedy struck the family again in 2006 when Patsy Ramsey died from a recurrence of ovarian cancer. Then in 2008, 12 years after that fateful Christmas, John and Patsy Ramsey were finally exonerated in the case. New DNA testing techniques proved that JonBenét's parents were innocent, and the Boulder District Attorney's Office sent a letter of apology to John. JonBenét's case was reopened in 2010, but still, no suspects have been named. John Ramsey has told his story in a powerful new book called The Other Side of Suffering. He joins me now. John, it's great to see you.
Nice to be here.
The media frenzy that you experience is unlike anything I've ever heard from a private citizen. It exceeds that which most politicians experience who ask for it. You actually had telephone repairmen, or people posing as repairmen, trying to tap the phones at your home, and a Jewish reporter kneeling beside you at communion trying to get you to say something as you knelt to take communion.
It was madness, absolute madness.
John, you know, I think most of us remember the story, but it's hard for us to conceive the agony that you're going through having lost a daughter, but this wasn't your first daughter to have lost tragically. Your older daughter, Beth, had been killed in a car wreck just a few years earlier. Now you're facing a second daughter's death. Adding to that, you've been accused of the murder.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the real pain was the loss of our child. So the accusations and the craziness that was going on around us was there, but we were already near mortally wounded from the loss of our child. So it in a sense, it distracted us in an ironic way, in that we had to deal with how do we get from the house to church, or how do we get from the house to Burke School without being barraged with cameras and microphones.
And Burke was your other son.
My young son, who was 9 at the time.
And one of the things, there's a powerful moment in the book. Patsy and Burke are at the grocery store. And they look over, and there's a tabloid, and in it says, "The brother did it," talking about Burke. He's a kid.
9 years old. No, that's very hurtful. And we tried to keep all that away from Burke. We tried to shield him. We tried to give him as much of a childhood as we could continue to give him. But it was tough.
Rarely do I read a book where I find myself so completely enthralled and unable to stop reading, and I feel compelled just to dig into the story. And this is one of those stories.
Well, thank you.
Because I think I knew what had happened, but I didn't know the depth of it. The humiliation that you and Patsy endured at the hands of a local police department that would not accept really no for an answer. They were determined.
Well,
why? What was going
I don't
on?
know. They placed their bet early. They made their decision very early and wouldn't deviate from it, regardless of evidence or lack thereof. I don't know. I can't comprehend why they didn't. You know, we understood, and it was explained to us, that police always look at the caregivers first and the parents. And we thought, okay, we understand that, but don't stop there, please. You know, and of course they did. I don't know.
One thing that I find amazing, how do you keep from being angry and bitter and just wanting to get revenge at the press and the police and all the people that wronged you? And I mean, by anybody's objective standard, they did.
Yeah, well, I'd be less than honest if I didn't say I felt that way for a while. But I spent a lot of time thinking about what forgiveness was all about, and did a lot of reading, a lot of study. And I went through 3 phases, I guess, of understanding, for my benefit, what forgiveness really is. And forgiveness is a gift I give myself. It's a release of that anger and that desire for revenge. It doesn't matter that the person you're forgiving may not even know you're forgiving them, doesn't care whether you're forgiving them, but it's a gift you give yourself. And it took me a while to get to that point, to understand that.
Well, there's so many things that I want to get with you, and we'll take a break, and then when we come back, more with John Ramsey and this amazing story. Stay with us.